If it's Tuesday, that means it's the Apex Energy Cup Series from Slingshot Racing League. Welcome, everybody. I'm Ellis Thomas, joined in the booth by Chris Smith. Tonight, we are bringing you live racing action in the ARCA cars from Indianapolis Raceway Park for the Apex Energy 200. So, brief history for you guys. Just 7 miles outside of Indianapolis proper, IRP was built on a 250-acre farm back in 1958. Originally, track developers actually envisioned a 2.5-mile road course with a drag strip, and they added the oval 2 years later. Should note, iRacing does not scan the road course, and maybe they'll scan the drag strip in the future. The oval track that we know now is the result of a resurfacing and leveling back in 1988. We've seen lots of great races here over the years at IRP, and one thing is for certain, these drivers are going to be fighting for space out on the track all night long. It's only a 0.658 mile track in length, and for the width for that matter, it's not going to feel a whole lot wider for those guys out there. So Chris, we're coming off in an intermediate track race at Charlotte Motor Speedway last week, now to IRP, a short track. What is going to be different for these drivers tonight as they tackle this short track?
Well, your mentality is going to be totally different tonight than it has been for any other race, other than probably the Bristol race. Things are going to be kind of chaotic and crazy. This track is it's got a very unorthodox line. We're going to talk a little bit about that as we get going, but the line here is very strange compared to some other short tracks. This is a track right here that was off of the NASCAR calendar for many years, and it's one that is a favorite and was desired by many race fans to come back. These days, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series is now racing here again in real life. It puts on a great show. The drivers are going to have to manage their tempers tonight. They're going to have to manage the race tonight because we're probably going to see our fair share of cautions throughout the night tonight.
Absolutely, and we're looking at that race analysis on the screen right now. This is going to be a 200-lap race. These guys do have, as you mentioned, 3 sets of tires and a fuel window of around 120 to 130 laps. And like we mentioned, there will be cautions tonight, so the likelihood of any driver going on a simple one-stop strategy tonight is unlikely. Always possible, but unlikely tonight. So before we get to qualifying action, talk about some goings-on in the league, I think it's a good time to take care of our pre-race tradition here at Slingshot with that national anthem. All right, so you are looking live at the Indianapolis Raceway Park, 7 miles outside of the urban core of Indianapolis. And Chris, we're just about a minute from qualifying, but we've got some stories to talk about tonight. We're following some drivers. We're going to talk about drivers that we're going to be keeping an eye on as we get underway here. The first guy I want to talk about tonight is actually our points leader, and that's Aaron Smith. The second, Smith has had a really good season so far. He's leading our point standings, and he's on top of our power ranking metric as well. Aaron, however, would tell you, he'd be the first to tell you, he's not as proficient at the short tracks as he is pretty much every other type of track that we run in slingshot racing. So, what do you expect to see from Aaron? What does a successful night look like for Aaron Smith as we watch him qualify right now?
I think a successful night for Aaron would just be to stay out of trouble. Hopefully, he can avoid all the chaos. He can avoid all of the issues out on the track, and just be around at the end. If you're around at the end of these things, you got a shot. You got a shot at it. So I think that Aaron will, be his typical, conservative self early on. Looking to keep his tires under him. You kind of touched on it earlier. A fuel run here is 120 to about 130 laps. I don't think that's going to come into play at all because I think that the way that the cautions will probably fall tonight, fuel won't be a question. It's going to be when do you want to pit for tires, and a guy that can save his tires, can really dictate, what everybody else is going to do. And so a lot of people are going to be looking at him and what he decides to do.
Yeah, I think he will probably be the leader, and many other people will be following him like the Pied Piper on pit strategy tonight. So that's going to be something to watch. Another guy I want to talk about briefly is the driver of the 9 car. Patrick Colby drives that same number in our truck series that runs on Wednesday night. Patrick's had shown a lot of speed in our Cup Series this year in these ARCA cars, but he struggled to finish these races in terms of just making it without getting involved in a wreck, whether it's his own fault or someone else's, or just managing those tires over the course of the long run. Now, things might have changed because last week we saw Patrick on Wednesday night take home the victory in our truck series, and part of that was by managing his tires. So we might be looking, as we watch Patrick Colby come down pit road here, we might be looking at a new Patrick Colby in that 9 car tonight. Where do you think he stands in terms of chances tonight?
I think that this could be a really, really good night for him. Patrick has been, we've talked about it on track in the truck series. Patrick's been, pretty aggressive this season and, wanting to try to, make as much ground as he can out on the track. And so I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see, him have a really good night tonight. In this deal right here tonight, you just got to be in it to win it. I wouldn't say that everybody has a shot, but if you could be around at the end of this thing, try to survive, you very well might be in it to win it.
Yeah, and you mentioned surviving. We got a lot of guys that aren't necessarily always the fastest guys on track, but we've got a lot of guys who do come out here, run every night, every race really cleanly, and just put together good, consistent runs. Johnny Rapp is one of those guys. He typically shows speed. We've got Scott Sobczak, who's really fast, but has struggled to kind of finish some of these races in the positions that he's run early on. But one guy I just want to give a shout out to is Lee Campbell in that 14 car. He comes out every night and he puts on an extreme effort of just keeping the car on track, staying out of trouble, and having good, quiet nights. I would be keeping my eye on the driver of that 14 car to have maybe a good, solid night, one of his better nights that he's seen this season. A couple guys I do want to talk about that have maybe had a little bit of trouble finishing these races. Brady Powers has constantly been caught up in other people's issues over the course of the season that have kept him from really staying in that top 10 in points. I think tonight might be a track that Brady can go get after it and have a pretty good run. Maybe a little beating banging is going to go on with that 22 car for sure, but I wouldn't be as surprised to see him around at the end of the race. And then Chris Pierce, the guy who we always talk about is a quiet guy on and off the track, is someone I would look to see kind of survive a lot of these incidents, maybe make it through, kind of run a conservative race early on, and we might see him towards the top 5 at the end of this thing. So qualifying right now is wrapping up. We got about 24 seconds left. If you're looking at the grid, you can see that Scott Sobczak, no surprise, has won every single pole this season except the race that he missed last week at Charlotte, and he made good on that by winning the Truck Series pole the next night. Tony Hilbrand's looking like he is going to be starting second. He's a guy we're going to be keeping an eye on to see if he can seal the deal tonight and get his first Cup Series win. So Let's go ahead as the clock winds down in qualifying and take a look at exactly where these Apex Energy Cup Series drivers are going to start on the track tonight. Track position is going to be key, as we talked about. Scott Sobczak is your pole sitter in that 81 Square D Batteries Ford. Tony Hilbrens is going to be starting right alongside him in the first row. In second place, Randy Bechtel, sporting a new paint scheme, maybe inspired by Kyle Busch's recent success in the Rio Cup Series. Going to be starting third. Aaron Smith starting fourth on his outside. Inside of the third row is going to be Johnny Rapp with Justin Gann on the outside. Chris Pierce, as we mentioned, starting seventh, looking to make his way quietly up through the field tonight. Ryan Jones starting in the middle spot in eighth on the outside of that fourth row. Rhett Tucker, I guarantee you, he's going to be a guy we're watching getting it after it tonight. I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a little bit of contact with those drivers around him tonight just by the sheer nature of this track and what an aggressive driver Rhett is. Austin Greer starting in the 10th spot on the outside. In 11th, we got Lee Campbell. Patrick Colby going to be starting 12th. Monty Sprague in that 3-car starting on the inside of row 7. And then on the outside, Chris Blassie. The last row is going to include Brady Powers and, of course, Chase Berry, who I can't help but wonder. Tire strategy, he's going to start at the back. He's going to take it easy. He's going to see how the cautions are going to fall, and I think that's probably a wise approach. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I definitely think that he's going to be, whenever you see Chase not qualify, we know that that's going to be in the works. And, you mentioned Brady as somebody to watch. I also noticed that Brady didn't qualify either. I'm not sure if he had trouble or if that was by design, but with as much bad luck as he's had both in the Cup Series and in the Truck Series this season, he might just be looking to stay out of trouble, try to be around at the end of this thing.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And as we talk about being around to the end, let's talk about the key storylines for this race. Tires, and more tires. These guys are going to need their tires tonight. We cannot say it enough. They're going to have to take it easy. And we mentioned that throughout the broadcast already. We've also mentioned the fight for space that's going to happen out there on the track. Are these guys going to be afraid to use the bumper to move drivers out of the way?
Probably not at all. You'll probably see that quite a bit tonight, and you'll probably see these guys not afraid to lay that chrome horn to somebody. We mentioned the unorthodox line earlier. This is a very, very strange track. You'll see guys all over the place. I think there's going to be one fast line. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out, but I think it might be a little bit higher up. And we're going to have a day-to-night transition tonight. It's going to get dark as the race goes on.
And lastly, let's talk about grudges, maybe carrying over from some races a couple of weeks ago. This is a great place to get payback if you want to. Not that we recommend it, but we might have a couple of drivers out there who are a little salty after last week and maybe the week before, looking to see if they can get some payback on that driver they might be holding a grudge with. Final race analysis, 120 to 130 lap fuel window tonight. We're going 200 miles. And these drivers have 3 sets of tires. Scott Sobczak better hold on to them, though, as he leads them to the green flag as the pace car pulls off. We're going Apex Energy Cup Series racing. The green flag is out. Scott Sobczak struggled on that start just a little bit after starting on the pole.
Yeah, Tony Hilbrens gets off to a really good start, gets way out in front. He wiggled a little bit right there on those cold tires. Aaron Smith looks like he's going to clear the 81 and move on into second spot.
Yeah, and I saw the 14 Lee Campbell look like he was just going to take it easy, kind of rides the apron back there. That actually might not have been Lee Campbell. That might have been Rhett Tucker, who we know has had some bandwidth issues recently. He might just be looking out for the rest of the field just in case he has any issues tonight. But up at the front, they are single file. Tony Hilbrens in the lead, Aaron Smith second. Scott Sobczak looking at that back bumper of that one car of Aaron Smith. Meanwhile, Justin Gann being hounded by Randy Bechtel, who slides up the track a little bit and might open the door for the 7 of Rye Jones. But right now on lap 2, now 3 of the Apex Energy 200, all drivers are definitely minding their P's and Q's as we look further back in the field. Some of the action, we've got one driver, it looks like the 45 of Austin Greer and that special Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty paint scheme, giving up a few spots. He falls back to 10th, but that is where he started. Looks like as Lee Campbell looks to make a move low, but realizes and thinks better of it. Brady Powers going to jump out on that 3-car of Monty Sprague as well as they dip down into turn number 2.
Yeah, and it looks like everybody's just kind of getting single file. I think that what we're seeing right now is the line that you might see a lot tonight. The line that we've got right now that's a little bit higher up the track. Ellison, we were kind of talking about it before in practice. The way that you attack this track and attack the corners here is almost like how you attack turns 1 and 2 at Darlington, where you do a little bit of an entry. It's a little bit lower, sort of drift up a little bit and kind of run down the hill a little bit. There really is no hill. This track only has about 7.5 degrees of banking in the corners, so it's a pretty flat track. But you kind of have to use that diamond mentality here with how you approach it to try to get that run up off the corner. You want to be able to get off the corners as the run goes on tonight. You want to be able to, extend the straightaways longer than other guys will around you.
Oh, we got a car in the wall. It looks like that might have been Rye Jones grabbing the wall just a little bit in turn 2. But probably, no harm, no foul there. These guys are going to probably grab the wall and grab the bumpers of other cars quite a few times tonight, Chris. So Rye Jones looks like he slips back in 7th and just is content to ride right now. As we see kind of a battle going on the track between the 30 and the 25, the 18 of Justin Gann and Randy Bechtel. I think we might be interested in seeing on board with that 18 car of Randy Bechtel to see what line he's running and how what that 30 car in front of him is doing kind of to react to that.
Yeah, and it looks like right now Randy is running, he's obviously with the 30 of Gann protecting that top lane. Randy's going to try to run the bottom. Now, this is tough sledding down here. It's really, really tough to complete a pass down here as Gann is able to get up off the corners right now. We'll have to see how, as the run goes on, how things change. Randy's not attacking it really hard. He understands. He's been here before and he's done this. He understands that this is a long race, and he wants to try to hold on to that right front and that right rear for as long as he can.
Yeah, and you might have a little bit of contact there. I'm not sure what I saw, but I am also thinking as Randy, as you attempt to make a pass on the inside, one thing you have to be mindful of is giving up that momentum and potentially falling into clutches of the guy behind you as well, which Chris Pierce looks like he has made up a little bit of ground on that 18 and is hounding the back bumper of that car pretty good still. But Chris, fairly conservative driver, is not going to push the issue on lap number 12 now of this race as they cross over the line to the 12th lap of the Apex Energy 200. Right now, everyone's minding their own business and minding their P's and Q's. Up front is Tony Hilbrun's. He has built a second lead on Aaron Smith and Scott Sobczak. It's a pretty good battle going on there for second place. Scott Sobczak giving the business to Aaron Smith. And Aaron, I would imagine at a certain point, I'm curious to see how long Aaron is content to kind of take that bumper abuse from the 81, or at least the threat of the bumper abuse from the 81 car, Aaron being a conservative driver. If you're Aaron right now and you're seeing that image that we're looking at of Scott Sobczak's front bumper, Chris, what are you doing in that car?
Well, I mean, if I'm Aaron, I feel pretty comfortable because I probably trust Scott more than I trust a lot of other drivers. I know that he's probably not going to make a mistake here and run me over, as they do get really close on corner entry right there. I think that you brought up a really good point. I think that Scott probably feels a lot more freedom right now because he doesn't have anybody really close to him behind, as we see that pack off in the distance back behind, where they're running really, really close to each other, and Randy might be a little bit apprehensive about trying to make a pass on the inside because you might get, stuck. You might get hung out. You got to be really, really careful here since there is a predominant line. One line that's clearly, the fastest, and you can get hung out very quickly. You gotta be really careful about when you decide to make that pass. Do you try to make that pass, right now, and then possibly not clear that guy? And if you don't clear the guy that you're trying to pass, you run the risk of getting hung out.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, Aaron Smith is thinking about that. You've also got Justin Gann and Randy Bechtel particularly thinking about losing that momentum as he looks to make a run underneath the 30 car. Hey, if you are in the chat right now, if you're watching the race on Twitch, we appreciate your viewership. We appreciate you. Let us know in the chat who you think is going to win this race tonight. As we mentioned on our Facebook and social media pages, simply by stopping in, saying hi in the chat, giving us a follow, you are entered to win a $5 giveaway. Not much, but hey, it'll buy you some half a track, half a car on iRacing. So let us know who you think is going to win just by typing their name in the chat right now. I know we've definitely got a Brady Powers fan, we've got a Chris Pierce fan, we've got a Chase Berry fan in the chat as well right now. So back up at the front, same story, hasn't changed. Tony Hilbrun's has about a 1.5 second lead on second and third. Scott Sobczak. Meanwhile, the spot on the track that is the hottest is that 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th spot. A dogfight going on between Justin Gann, Randy Bechtel, Chris Pierce in that white and blue number 25, and Ryan Jones in that beautiful white and purple number 7. All kind of like Ryan Jones might have gotten to the wall a little bit. Johnny Rapp definitely got into the wall right behind those guys, and these are just slight kisses. So I don't think they're really doing a lot of damage to the car, but they are, like we mentioned, testing the limits of that entry into turn 1 that we said was in some way similar to that Darlington entry where you're running low but then coming right up against the wall to carry the speed through the corner.
Yeah, we're going to go back and take a look and see. We might have had an incident involving the 99 of Rhett Tucker. We did see him get... Okay, yeah, he's having connection issues. He got a little bit loose right there in the middle of 1 and 2, but I think that Rhett might have decided that enough's enough with those connection issues.
Yeah, and you hate to see that. Rhett's a good racer, and I know he's had a couple issues just a few weeks in a row now. So kind of a bad streak of internet connection problems for Rhett, but hopefully we'll see him in the truck race tomorrow night and back out on the track in the Cup Series next week. Hey, we do have some fans shouting out. We got Stomp351, who I'm pretty sure might be Scott Tompkins, is looking like he's rooting for Randy Bechtel in that Rowdy Busch scheme. We got Mike Temlenhoff, who is rooting for Matt Kuntz tonight, and then JF Greer 63, who's rooting for Austin Greer in that 45 car, who just made a pass, I believe, for the 9th spot. He's actually engaged in a battle right now on the track with Patrick Colby for that 9th position. Patrick running that high line that we mentioned, and Austin trying to make the pass work on the inside, but see him struggle to do that a little bit. So Austin started 10th. That's where he is. He's having a good, solid run right now in the top 10 in that 45 blue and black Dale Earnhardt Richard Petty tribute scheme. And Austin had some trouble last week, but he's looking like he's on the right track this evening.
Yeah, he is, and there might be a slight bit of right front damage right there on the number 9 of Patrick Colby. You're going to see that tonight. You're going to see the right sides of these cars scuffed up. You're going to see guys that are, putting it on the fence a little bit closer than others are. You'll see the left side's banged in a little bit as people use each other up. It's a little bit early right now for all of that, but I think as the runs go on, as the race goes on, might see some frustration at points where people decide that they might use somebody else up. As this fight right here for the 4th position will not go away. No, it will not go away.
And I just saw, it looked like Randy might have changed his lineup out of 4 there to see if he might get a run on the 30 car, but that did not look like it resulted in what he hoped it would. But he is running a slightly different line than Justin, so I'm curious to see how that kind of develops over time. As we see here, he's running slightly higher and exiting, getting down to the bottom a little bit lower. And you saw it. You saw him get that run that's going to set him up. They both run the same line into that corner.
Yeah, you can.
So you go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can probably get a pretty good perspective right here following from the rear bumper of Justin Gann. We can maybe see the spots where Randy's a little bit faster. It looks like his roll speed in the center of the corner right there was really, really good. And for anybody watching doesn't know what roll speed is, it seems like Justin Gann might be on the brakes a little bit longer than Randy Bechtel is. Randy might be able to get off the brakes. They're both on the brakes on corner entry. You can see the nose dive down on that number 18 as he gets really, really close to Justin Gann's rear bumper. Watch how the nose will just slam into the track right there. Valence all the way sealed off. And Randy it seems like he's just getting off the brakes a lot quicker than Justin Gann, and just conventional wisdom will tell you that if you're on the brakes longer, you're building up more heat in the tire, you're building up that air pressure a lot quicker, and it means that you will probably get tight a little bit quicker compared to a guy who might get his braking done earlier and is able to, just sort of brake in a straight line and roll the center of the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned using a little bit more tire, heating them up. We'll keep an eye. We're lap 31 right now, the Apex Energy 200 from Indianapolis Raceway Park. We're going to keep an eye on that 30 car. He's been out in 4th place for the entire race. As you see him get into the wall,
Ooh.
Randy Bechtel gets into his rear bumper. Bechtel able to hang on to it, but now he's got Chris Pierce in that 25 car to his outside. He's going to lose at least one spot, maybe going to try to fight back. He is not happy as you see him drive into the sidewall of that 25 car. I'm not sure if the 25 got into him, if that's what led to that, Chris, or not, but he looked like, I don't know if he was angry at the 25 or he was just trying to recover. We can go back and probably maybe take a look at that here in a minute if possible. But
and it looks like Justin Gann had a connection issue right at the same time.
Yeah.
All that happened.
All that might have been linked. That's going to put Justin Gann out of the race after running in 4th. So
he
far
blinked on my end.
34 laps.
Yeah, he blinked on my end right about the time that all this happened. We'll go back and we'll watch a replay of it. He's in the wall there. Randy ran into the back of him. Looked like, honestly, it was a deal where Randy was trying to avoid running in the back of him and got himself out of shape to try to keep from wrecking the 30. I think that contact right there was just, Randy was trying to recover.
Yeah, a couple of them just got the wall again on the front straightaway coming out of turn 4, both the 25 and the 18. So I think it's safe to say on lap 35, these drivers are starting to feel the effects of these tires. These cars are starting to not be as friendly in these corners, and it looks to me like some of these guys are definitely pushing on exit. They're getting really close to that wall. Yeah,
we see the 25 car, Chris Pierce, he is scuffed up on the right side. That's going to happen tonight. Like we said, that shouldn't, shouldn't be a big issue for him at all. What you want to try to avoid, and it sounds like I heard somebody get into it just then. It might have been the 25
That was the
again.
22 of Brady Powers, actually, that time.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of that tonight. You here at this track, you have to run close to the wall. And as you get side by side, door-to-door contact is going to happen, and people are going to try to, run each other closer towards the wall. It's going to be a big game of chicken all night.
Yeah, I think you are absolutely right. And, hey, if you are in the chat right now, we appreciate you being here. Whether you just joined, you've been watching all race, welcome to Slingshot Racing. Hey, drop us a line, say hi in the chat, tell us what car or driver you're rooting for tonight. And simply by saying hi in the chat and giving us a quick follow on the bottom right of the video, you are entered to win a free $5 credit for iRacing tonight. So you got nothing to lose. Right now, Tony Hilbrun's doesn't have anything to lose as he is out front with a 3-second lead on Aaron Smith in that one car, who has got a bumper full of Scott Sobczak in that 81 car. These drivers have been going at it, Chris, I think pretty much the entire race, and it's the same story. You're seeing those two different lines being run through the corner right now, and it's given Scott a little bit of momentum. It looks like through 1 and 2 maybe, and then it's given a little Aaron a momentum on the other side of the track. So they can't get away from each other.
Yeah, and right now this is all the Tony Hilbrun show, as Scott Sobczak looked like he made wasn't a dive, it's just like he made a peek right there, maybe just wanted to get out of Aaron's mirror and make Aaron look back a little bit. But yeah, this is all the Tony Hilbrun show right now. Tony is he's jumped out there to a pretty good lead, and he has maintained, and not only maintained it, but he's actually grown that lead. This hasn't been a situation where he jumped out and everybody started reeling him in. Now, we need to pause here for just a second, and realize that a tank of fuel will get you about 120 laps roughly tonight. If we're using up a lot, might even be able to go further than that if you're trying to save. So when you think about it from that perspective, we're just a third into this fuel run. So what's going to happen as the run goes on here is, are we going to see that lead start to diminish as Aaron Smith maybe tries to save a little bit of tire. Scott Sobczak putting a little bit of pressure on him. But right now, it's the Tony Hilbrun show.
Yeah, and absolutely. I think we up in the booth, we don't like to play favorites, but Tony is one of our colleagues. He broadcasts the Truck Series races on Wednesday night, and I felt so bad for Tony most of the season because, including at Daytona, where him and Patrick Colby kind of led the field for most of the race, has struggled to put together finishes because he's been getting caught up in wrecks that are of his own or not of his own making. And that's just when you get in those streaks, it feels like they're going to go on forever, where you just can't get out of those problems that others are creating. But tonight so far, Tony hasn't faced any problems. One thing I do want to mention, though, is at what point do you think we ought to start considering whether or not these drivers, as you see Scott Sobczak looks like closing up on the back bumper of Aaron Smith once again, at what point do we think we see a 92 car or a 1 car, an 81, make that pit call to come onto pit road to get tires before lap 20? Do you think it's a possibility? Do you think someone brings them down early? And what do you think the rest of the field does as a reaction?
Yeah, I don't think that you could come to pit road before lap 75. I just don't think that you can do it at all. I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't feel comfortable coming down pit road until lap 100 probably. If I can make it to lap 100, there's a possibility that there might be more cautions as the race goes on. These guys are doing a great job right now. We haven't really seen any, but we could see a lot more as the race goes on. So if we do see that, I would want to try to stretch this run here as long as I can. That way, in case there are more cautions towards the end, I can be a little bit more choosy about when I decide to take my tires. You don't want to take them. You don't want to try to come down pit road too early. And also, golly, pitting under green here, you're going to lose laps. And you're running a huge risk by pitting under green here. I would try to, if I was driving, I'd be running that thing out.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. You don't want to give up that time under green flag. But right now, hey, did I hear the Sonic the Hedgehog theme music playing? If we look back in 13th and 14th place, we got a nice little battle as Lee Campbell in that Sonic the Hedgehog car makes his way by Patrick Colby. Lee Campbell having a steady night tonight, running 12th, has stayed out of trouble, as we mentioned. That is kind of his MO this season. Gets by the 9, and the 9 of Patrick Colby looks like he might be struggling, Chris. He did start in the 14th position, or the 12th position rather, but I know he had worked his way up a little bit higher than that. Do you think he has maybe used up those tires a little bit more than his two teammates, Tony Hilbrun and Aaron Smith, up at front?
It's a possibility. He's also got some damage on the right front that could be hampering him a little bit. I'm not sure if it was any type of, if he's got wheel damage, suspension damage that's been done to it. It doesn't look too bad. But I noticed he was running really, really low earlier, almost trying to run the apron. You can kind of do that here in real life. What that tells me, and just by looking at the attitude of the car, he looks really, really tight. Car looks really tight. Looks like it's not turning at all in the center of the corner. He scrubs the wall. That's the thing. When you hit the wall, like on corner entry here, it kind of just sucks you in. So I think Patrick's just struggling with a tight condition right now. Might have pushed too early, and it might be that damage hurting him. So our Truck Series winner from Charlotte last week, he's open for a caution.
Yeah, I think you got another driver on the track open for a caution right now, and that is that 15 of Chris Blassie, who's in the wall as Tony Hilbrun's approaches to put him a lap down. So Tony Hilbrun's just getting by that 15 car of Chris Blassie as he hits the wall. That was my next question, and my next thought is lap cars. Well, you got a short track. I know we've only got 16 drivers on the track tonight, but you still got to contend with lap cars as Tony Hilbrun's encounters his first maybe moment where he's holding his breath as he gets by the 15 car. What kind of factor, if you're a lap car, what are you doing in reference to that leader as they approach? Are you thinking of it as racing to stay on the lead lap, hoping there's a caution, or are you kind of letting Tony by with the speed he's carrying tonight?
I mean, I think it's a case-by-case basis. If something happens to you, but you've got pretty good speed comparable to the leader, I think that you're justified in racing them to try to stay on the lead lap. But I mean, if they have caught you 5 seconds within the past 10 laps, probably wise to let them go. Live to fight another day, and the roles might be reversed someday, and you might find yourself needing a break from them, and so you give it to them. I've always had the attitude, don't delay the inevitable in the first half of the race. You don't have to tell a guy that you're going to let them go, but, just, be aware that, hey, this is a long race tonight, a lot of racing to go. These guys are doing a great job, and we haven't had, a ton of cautions. This is a short track as the 92 scrubs the wall a little bit on entry right there.
Yeah, I got in the wall a little bit.
Yeah, this is a track right here when you compare it to other short tracks, and this is one reason why we really wanted this short track on the schedule for both series, is you can get some long green runs here just because of the way in which you have to race it. It's not one of those tracks where you're hard on the brakes and then hunting the bottom. I think that those types of tracks, they really, really do not work in the favor of long green flag racing. Places like North Wilkesboro, Myrtle Beach, as we've got some experience racing at those tracks. Those are great tracks, and I love those tracks, but I don't think they're conducive to big packs and long stretches of green flag racing like this one is.
Put your dollar in the curse jar for saying Myrtle Beach, Chris.
Sorry, I'll have to, I owe you one for that one.
Yeah, you're good. Hey, shout out to Red Bull 916 who says hi in the chat. We appreciate you watching tonight, Red Bull. Let us know who you are rooting for. Right now, we got a battle on the track between the number 1 and the 81. These guys have found themselves together on track all night, but also all season. Scott Sobczak really tries to make a move on the number 1, but they approached the 15 of Chris Blassie, that lap down car, and ran into some trouble in front of Tony Hilbrun's. We'll see if one of these drivers try to use the 15 as a pick, as Blassie is going to do the right thing, and he gets out of the way down there on the apron. Yep, with Randy Bechtel now running down Aaron Smith and Scott Sobczak in the 81. That number 18 is picked some speed back up as he made his way back by that 25 of Chris Pierce a little while ago. He is charged now into 4th place, and he wants more as we cross over on lap 62 of the Apex Energy 200 here at Indianapolis Raceway Park as we watch Randy Bechtel make his way around in that CarQuest Kyle Busch paint scheme. Randy may be a little not happy about some contact that happened earlier, but he's locked right back in. And what do you make of this line? I'm watching him do it. I've watched him do it for 2 corners now. I'm curious to see if he does it here again. He's running really high, right up against that wall, and he is coming down really. He's able to cut pretty quick, Chris.
Yeah,
what does that tell us about his tire wear?
Well, that tells you that at this point of the run, and I think it's the same for everybody, you're probably feeling pretty tight. And so this line that, as he gets really close to the wall there off of turn 4, this line that he's running is probably a means to try and get as good of a run off the corner and down the straightaways as he possibly can. He's just wanting to try to make the straightaway longer and his on-throttle time longer. So your speed is higher on the straightaway. It's easier to pass him on the straightaway than it is in the corners, and I think that that's what he's trying to do here. I just want to say right now, looking at the lap times and looking at the gaps and everything, this is a really, really impressive run by the 92 of Tony Hilbrun's tonight. He has not only maintained the gap, but he has extended it, and he has been, consistently one of the fastest cars on the track all the way out here in the lead.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about as we watch him make his way by his teammate, putting Patrick Colby a lap down. Tony hasn't made a wrong move tonight. He hasn't put a foot out of place. He's done everything perfectly, and I'm afraid to say that, to put the jinx on him, but he's really running a good race tonight. And he hasn't had to really caught up in any of these battles. From lap 1, Tony jumped out, but we've been watching these battles all night long. So if we do get a restart, I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on, is how Tony reacts to that adversity that he hasn't really had to drive much with tonight, that Aaron Smith and Scott Sobczak have been fighting with all night. They know what their cars do in traffic. Tony doesn't necessarily know that as we watch Scott Sobczak really make an effort to get by the 1. as we watch that onboard rear onboard camera of Aaron Smith in that number one, who is also our points leader. And right now, we've got our second place, Randy Bechtel, who continues to hound both of those guys. But let's do a quick check, a quick run through the field just to check on some of these drivers that we might not have talked about tonight. So we did mention Tony Hilbrun's is your leader. Aaron Smith in that yellow number one is sitting second. Scott Sobzak in the 81 third. Randy Bechtel having a good night tonight in fourth. Chris Pierce, the silent warrior, up to fifth place. This is something we mentioned we would be keeping an eye on as Chris quietly moving through the field. Hey, I do want to pause real quick because we got Scott
Battle
Sobzak.
for second.
Yeah, battle for second going on. He can't necessarily keep even.
Yeah.
And here's what we talked about. We talked about the danger of trying to make that pass because Randy Bechtel drew right up to the back bumper of Scott there. And it looks like he might get a run here off this corner.
One thing
might make another run at it.
Yeah, one thing I was going to mention, when we were watching from the rear bumper of Aaron Smith, it just seemed like to me from that rear bumper camera that Scott Sobzak's car was just turning in the center of the corner a little bit better than Aaron. And I don't know if Aaron's center of the corner speed is a little bit lower because he's purposely doing that. As Aaron's line, it looks like to me Aaron is kind of changing his line here just a little bit in 3 and 4 that time. As he ran sort of down the hill a little bit more, a little bit more pronounced than he had been before. And I want to say here these past couple corners, he has, found a little something on corner exit. And has actually started to open up a little bit of a gap on Scott Sobzak. So, this might be, Aaron might have been, when we were watching from his rear bumper, he might have been purposely slowing his center of the corner speed down just a little bit in order to save a little bit of right front tire.
Yeah, and that is a question. I wonder, is that, there are three options as to why that decision was made. Is it instinct? Is Aaron was that planned? Did he know to do that? Does he have someone, I don't know if he's got a crew chief or a spotter watching what the other cars are doing. Is he watching that 18 car of Randy Bechtel in his rear view mirror kind of make some speed that way?
Well, it very well could be. And also Aaron might be thinking, hey, this race has a really, really green flag look to it. And it does right now. He might be thinking like, hey, I can run 120, almost 130 laps on a tank of fuel here. If I can run that many laps, I might just want to hold on to that right front tire and not get too carried away. We'll see if we can actually ride on board with Aaron Smith. We don't want that camera. We don't even really want that one. We can see where that center mark of the steering wheel is. It's really, really far to the left in the center of the corner exit. See how much wheel he's putting into it right here. Oh yeah, look how much wheel he's got into it. That is a lot in these cars. That's a lot of steering input. As we got a battle going on for the 6th spot between Austin Greer and Johnny Rapp. Johnny Rapp's on pit road.
Yeah, so Johnny Rapp starts losing spots, and he's going to hit pit road first. Now, here's the question. Is this going to bring other guys down with him? Patrick Colby on pit road as well. I'm not sure who pit first.
Looks like Rye Jones.
Johnny Rapp.
Yeah, I think that Rye Jones might have actually been the first one on pit road.
You are right, because his last lap was a 22.9, and that was probably not even up to speed yet. So he's back in those low tire ranges, low lap tire ranges, as we do see that he came down pit road. Patrick Colby on pit road, Johnny Rapp also on pit road. We'll be watching to see if anyone else takes that bait as we are on lap 80 of the Apex Energy 200 here at IRP, as we start to see some of our first pit stops of the night with guys further back in the field, looking to see if they can make up any ground on Tony Hilbrun's, our current leader.
Yeah, and we talked about when they would come. We mentioned about the lap 75 mark, and that seems to be when they decided to do it. That seemed to be the magic number. If I am up here, if I'm Tony Hilbrun's, lap 100 is my target. If I'm Aaron Smith, lap 100. I want to try to get there. I'm halfway through the race. I did half of this race on the set of tires that I started the race on. That's what I want to try to do, as there's only 8 cars left on the lead lap at this torrent pace that Tony Hilbrun's is setting.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to follow just for a minute. Is Tony Hilbrun's has crossed through several lap cars, and we talked about what his car would do in traffic and how he would react to being around other drivers out there tonight. And he's made it through right now. At least to us, it seems from a bird's eye view, he's made it through unscathed as he closes up on that 22 of Brady Powers, who is going to be the next car to be put a lap down in the 8th spot.
Oh, we got the wall there.
Yeah.
Off of turn 2. The 92 got the wall a little bit. I think it's okay, though. That's just contact that you're going to have here, especially as the run goes on. Aaron Smith has closed in a little bit, and he's brought it down by about half a second. I think that Aaron has a little bit of tire advantage at this point of the run, but I also think Tony is running into lap traffic that is affecting him too.
Yeah, and speaking of traffic, this battle for third place is heating up once again between Scott Sobczak, Randy Bechtel, and Chris Pierce, and that 25 has entered the conversation for third place as we see Randy Bechtel getting down to the inside of that 81 car. And for what has been feeling like maybe 50 laps now, Randy is going to try to clear Sobczak on the exit of the corner out of 2, and he gets him. Maybe Scott Sobczak going to hang on here, try to fight it, but Randy's going to pull up right in front of him, and now Scott Sobczak back to 4th place, and Randy Bechtel moves forward to 3rd after reclaiming his starting position. Scott Sobczak had a little bit of trouble off of 4 there.
Yeah,
Chris Pierce was going to try to take advantage of it.
He's looking tight. He's looking really, really tight right now. The 81 looks like he cannot get back to the throttle. As Chris Pierce, I think, is going to come to pit road.
Absolutely, and I think that's not a bad call at all. He knows he's got the speed. He's seen some cars come down pit road, and he might be looking to split that strategy we talked about. We saw some guys coming around lap 75. It's now lap 86. And we talked about maybe lap 100 being the magic number. But I tell you, Chris, I feel like the more cars that start coming down, the more pressure this is going to put on the leaders, because someone like Chris Pierce was not that far back from the leaders. He is actually running similar speeds to what those front 2 cars were running.
Yeah, if I am Scott Sobczak, I'm coming to pit road now.
I think absolutely you're right.
Scott Sobczak's speed has really fallen off here in the last few laps. He has, this last lap, he ran a 23.9 compared to Randy Bechtel, who ran a 23.5. I think Randy Bechtel's the fastest car on the track. That lap Aaron Smith was, but Randy and Aaron Smith seem to be consistently running the fastest laps out here as we approach lap 90.
Yeah, right now Tony Hilbrun just makes his way by the 8th place car, now the 7th place car, Brady Powers, to put him a lap down. So one more, check off the checklist, I suppose, for Tony Hilbrun as he makes his way by another lap car. And right now, it's pretty much uncontested. We mentioned that Aaron Smith was making a little bit of ground up on him,
yeah.
Randy Bechtel as well, but they're still about, I'm looking at our interval here, about two seconds back. But as we look at it, like you mentioned, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah, we'll see if we can actually pull up see if we can pull up the battle forecast here. Got some race insights powered by Pierce Graphics. That lap by Aaron Smith about 0.2 quicker. We'll see what it looks like this time by. And we'll actually try to compare Randy Bechtel against Aaron Smith, because these guys are pretty close on speed. Aaron's not that much quicker that lap, but he is quicker, and a 1/10 here, 2/10 there. This will be a battle for the lead if these guys decide that they want to go, if they want to try to extend this. I like this strategy. I like what they're doing. I like going long here, especially if, I have as much speed as these guys do. Tony Hilbrun's right there. Looks like he had a little bit of slow lap. I think it was because he was passing the 22 of Brady Powers. That type of thing just makes this closer, because lap traffic is not going to race second place as hard as they race the leader.
Well, hey, let me give you a little bit of context here on that 22. That 22 has not gotten off the back bumper of that 92.
Oh, he's
Tony Hilbrun passed, and Brady Powers is not on fresh tires.
That's right, he's not.
So these guys are on the same set of tires. Brady Powers is now a lap down, but I think that speaks to what Tony's car is doing right now and how Tony's feeling that car. He cannot get away from that lap car he just passed. And as you see, that yellow car is getting bigger and bigger as we take a look at the battle forecast there. Brady Powers right in the back bumper of that 92. That is not something to forget and to kind of miss as part of this conversation right now. That's a great visual illustrator of what that 92 is feeling like for that driver, Tony Hilbrun's right now.
Yeah.
As we watch Aaron Smith creep ever closer.
Yeah, but if you're Tony, as we get closer and closer to the pit stop, if Aaron gets to the back bumper of Tony at the end of this run, if you're Tony Hilbrun's, hey, mission accomplished. You jumped out there. Yeah, you jumped out there to a big lead. You held it. Your tires didn't start, giving up until a little bit later. Now, that being said, the runs are probably not going to be as long on tires as we get to the end of the race, because after these guys pit, they're going to have 2 more sets left in the pits.
81's on pit road. Scott Sabzak brings the pit road on lap 96. We are right around that 100-lap mark that we talked about being the sweet spot. As that 81, our pole sitter now sits on pit road. He gets his 4 tires, and he is going to get off, and he looks like he's going to be sitting around the 12th position. So we'll see what kind of lap times he's running when he gets back on the track. Meanwhile, though, your leader's still hanging out there. Tony Hilbrun still leads Aaron Smith. That lead has dropped down to just over 1.2 seconds, as it was 4 seconds just about 15 laps ago. So Aaron Smith definitely making inroads on our leader. Tires are the name of the game right now. We get close to the halfway point. We know that a fuel run, Chris, is right around 120 to 130 laps, and it looks like we got another car, Austin Greer, in that 45, who's having a pretty good run, is on pit road as well tonight at this lap 98 marker.
One person I want to give a shout out to right now started deep in the field. We've been talking about Randy Bechtel, Aaron Smith running some of the fastest laps. A guy that you can also include in that conversation, though it wasn't that lap, but he had been the past couple laps, is that number 5 with Chase Berry. Started shotgun on the field, or tailback as Rusty Wallace calls it. Started deep in the field, and he is up to the 4th position here. Has not come to pit road yet. Last car currently on the lead lap. That's going to change once everybody pits. One thing I've noticed is guys didn't lose as much time as I thought they would lose on pit road. I thought you'd go at least 2 laps down. And I think the only person who did go 2 laps down might have been Patrick Colby and Chris Blassie.
Leaders are on pit road. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. Yeah, the 92, Tony Hilbrun's hits the pit lane.
And the 18, Randy Bechtel, follows him down that slow, winding pit road. And as you mentioned, it feels like an eternity, but these guys are not losing as much time. A lap is around 23 seconds here right now. So these guys are going to pit right next to each other. Stalls back to back for our first 2 cars, Tony Hilbrun's and Randy Bechtel, as they bring it on to pit road. Looks like they're going to get off without any major issues. These guys are taking 4 tires, and that's going to bring a lot of other guys down pit road. It looks like Aaron Smith is also coming down pit road. He had inherited the lead. He's going to give that up to make his pit stop. Looks like a couple other cars, Monty Sprague, Lee Campbell, are going to follow him down and make their respective pit stops. So this is bringing the rest of the field down as we hit lap 102. Chase Berry is now in the lead.
Yeah, that's going to give Chase Berry the lead, and Brady Powers back on the lead lap. That worked out pretty well for Brady. If I was Brady, I would have probably tried to come. Maybe you gotta kind of have a fortune ball to pit right before the leader so you can gain that ground. But we're gonna see how all this shakes out. The first 2 guys that I recall coming to pit road was the 52 of Johnny Rapp and the 7 of Rye Jones. Currently, once all this shakes out and the 5 and the 22 come to pit road, Johnny Rapp is going to be the race leader. Johnny Rapp is right here, not that far behind Brady Powers. Brady might decide he's going to try to stretch this thing as long as he can, maybe even Chase Berry too. Chris Pierce is going to be in the 2nd spot, and that will be your race for the lead once all this squares away. And just looking at the laps here, Chris Pierce has 9 lap fresher tires than Johnny Rapp does.
Yeah, Johnny came in, it looks like around, 70, I'm not a great math person, but teach
28
history
laps
for a
ago.
reason. Yeah, 28 laps ago. So he does have older tires than the guy, at least directly behind him, Chris Pierce. But these two guys out front right now, they're on 106 lap old tires.
Yeah.
As you see Brady Powers kind of leading this group with Patrick Colby a lap down in tow, but then Johnny Rapp, Pierce, and Chris Blassie behind him, kind of a train of 5 cars making their way around the track. Brady Powers, I've been impressed with kind of what he's been doing these past several laps, like you mentioned. I think it's not a bad call that he has made to stay out, but it looks like Patrick Colby going to try to duck inside. I don't know if he's going to be able to carry the momentum or not. It's like Brady's going to hang on at least to keep Patrick Colby a lap down. And Colby is fighting for that. This is an important point for Patrick Colby, at least trying to get by Brady Powers to see if he can catch Chase Berry, but he's pretty far behind. So I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen anyways, but
I think that Patrick has got some long run pace problems tonight. It looks like he came to pit road really early. I think the only guy that actually came earlier than him on that round of pit stops was Rye Jones, and so it's a good call to try to make up some ground. I would have done the exact same thing. But unfortunately, he just didn't get the caution that I think that he was really hoping for.
Yeah, I think you are right. Now, one interesting, we don't have a magic 8-ball here, or I guess a crystal ball, I should say. But right now, we talked about Johnny Rapp being on about 28 lap older tires than some of these other guys. What happens if we get a caution in, let's say, 20 laps? Does that put Johnny Rapp in a position where he essentially will stay in the lead, at least if his pit stop is even with the other guys, because it's going to bring everyone else down pit road as well?
Yeah, I don't think that you'd even come then. I think that
You don't
would
think
be.
it'd come then?
I think it would be. Well, I don't know. It's kind of tough. I think that you might. I think it's going to be really, really hard to pit under green again tonight. I think that people like Aaron Smith and Randy Bechtel and Tony Hilbrands, I think that those guys are thinking, hey, if this thing goes green to the end, I'm not pitting again. I'm done pitting. And I think that almost everybody is in that position. I don't have a fuel calculator, and so I don't know. I think that Rye Jones being the first one to come, I think that Rye could make it. I think, honestly, everybody could make it to the end. So as long as the caution doesn't come out here within the next 10 laps, I think that you're right. I think that you could see everybody come. And, if that does happen, Johnny Rapp has played this perfectly. He's going to be sitting in a really, really good spot. Yeah, I don't think that you really see a huge difference in the tire. Oh, as they get really, really close on corner entry right there between the 25 and the 81. And we got this battle going on right now between the two of them.
Look at this. They are making contact.
Yeah, they rub doors.
Side by side. Chris Pierce and Scott Sobczak. Pierce is probably going to be happy to let Sobczak by at this point unless he tries to get a run on the exit of this corner.
Yeah.
That looked like a case of the 81 maybe just pushing up a little bit too much into the left side of that 25. At least he's making a pass on Johnny Rapp now. And we will mention, like we reminded you earlier, these cars are on slightly newer tires than Johnny. But Johnny's not going to really put up a fight with Scott Sobczak.
Yeah, I think that Chris Pierce, he's only got about 9 lap fresher tires, whereas Scott Sobczak has 18 lap fresher tires than Johnny Rapp. So you don't see that huge speed difference between them. And also, I think Chris Pierce is trying to conserve a lot here.
Tony, hang on to it.
Yes.
3 wide. That is your leader who has led over 100 laps of this race. We saw it. You saw it happening before our very eyes. Tony Hilbrands pushed up a little bit out of that corner with Chris Pierce still not clear of him, and those two cars made contact, but it looks like everything is kosher after a moment where we all held our breath inside and outside of that car.
Yeah, that was close. We'll go back and we'll see if we can actually take a look at it here coming up off the corner. It looked like Tony was just sliding a little bit. He wanted to try to complete that pass right then and there and squeeze the 25 into the wall. Nothing intentional. That's just hard racing. It's tough out there. This is a tough old track to get around. But it puts on really good racing. I really like what I've seen so far tonight.
Yeah, speaking of tough to get around, if we look back in 8th position, Randy Bechtel is having a whale of a time getting by the 9 and the 22. cars that he has been faster than all night. And this tells you this is the story of track position, folks. These passes are not easy to make, as we see the 18 jump down, and he looks like he's finally going to move by that 9 car, but he's going to set sights on that 22 of Brady Powers in front of him, who, as we know, has not been the easy car to get by. As I say that, he's probably going to let the 18 car by.
Yeah.
Looks like he's got to be careful, though. We don't want to have another Scott Sobczak, Chris Pierce moment, as the 22 is on the brakes, which gives Patrick Colby in that 9 a little bit of difficulty. He has to check up a little bit.
Yeah, Brady Powers on 119 lap tires, the same tires that he started this race on, and so you know that thing probably isn't a lot of fun to drive right now. We don't know how many laps he has. We just have like a rough fuel window of about 120 to 130 laps. I'm betting that he's getting pretty close right about now, and a guy that's also in that same position as our race leader, Chase Berry, in the 22, as Monty Sprague tags the wall down the back stretch, but it looks like everybody gets away. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, Monty's had a pretty quiet night. He's had a pretty good run going. He has stayed out of trouble, and he did make that pit stop about 20 laps ago, and he's running 13th. Not bad time tonight. He ran 22.8 as his fastest lap. He is 2 laps down, but overall he's had a quiet but solid night. As we see the 22 of Brady Powers duck down for pit road, and I guarantee you he's breathing a sigh of relief that he can finally come in. And whew, man, what a demonstration there by staying out on those tires for 122 laps. Now that leaves Chase Berry, our leader, as the only car, I believe, right now on the track who has not come to pit road. He is on 123 laps, as we are on now lap 123 of the Apex Energy 200. Chase Berry, that Florida driver, started tail end on the field. Now up to the lead. He's flipped the script, and he is really he's definitely struggling with lap time. Scott Sobczak closing in. As you can see, the forecasted prediction, thanks to Pierce Graphics, is about 9 laps. Our AI is predicting that Scott Sobczak is going to overtake for the lead. Now, if we're comparing tires, as we like to do in Slingshot Racing League, Scott Sobczak got about 29 on his tires, 29 laps. Aaron Smith has got about 7 laps less at 22. Tony Hilbrun's at 23. Johnny Rapp on that slightly different strategy at 47. So Scott Sobczak, after really struggling, maybe being one of the first cars to really tighten up, so to speak, and wear those tires out, is back going to be in a position to inherit the lead. What do we attribute that to? Is that him coming down pit road earlier than most other guys?
Yeah, and if we get a caution on about lap 150, he's going to be sitting really good. But yeah, him coming to pit road when he did, I think that was the right call. I think I even mentioned when Chris Pierce came that I would have come right then and there, and Scott didn't. He was more patient than I would have been, and he decided that he was going to keep it going. He was giving up a lot of speed there compared to the fast guys. I look at the guys like Tony Hilbrun's, Aaron Smith, and Randy Bechtel as probably the 3 fastest at the end of that run earlier, and they went the longest, as to be expected. They would go longer since they have less to worry about as far as their speed goes at the end of the run. Scott Sobczak is hoping for, if I'm going to guess, the moment that he really starts to give up speed, compared to those tires, and we'll go ahead and take a look at, their the comparison here. It's not all that different right here. They were pretty close on lap times there. I'm going to say probably about lap 150 would be a great ideal caution for Scott Sobczak. I think that's probably going to be when he does not want Aaron Smith to pass him. He wants Aaron Smith to probably get right up on his rear bumper as the run goes on, and then a caution comes out. That would probably be the best thing that could happen for him, because then he would put on a set of tires at that point, possibly.
Yeah.
But who knows? They might decide to save him.
Anything can happen at this point. Chase Berry up at the front now on 130 lap old tires.
Coming in this time.
I was about to say, I get the sense that he is coming into pit road, and man, those tires are definitely screaming. That car is wanting some help. He gets it woed up to make that left-hander down onto that slow pit road, and that will officially cycle through our pit stops on lap 130. Scott Sobczak, who we've been talking about in that 81 Square D machine, moves back to the lead. Aaron Smith is about a tenth and a second and 3/10 back. Tony Hilbrunds, who has been dominant all night, is back 3 seconds in third place, but I guarantee you he is not going to be that far back for long, because he is going to want every single tenth of a second to reclaim that lead that he gave up over the course of that pit cycle. Johnny Rapp, who we talked about having that slightly different pit strategy, in fourth. And we got a battle for fourth right now between the 52, the 25, and the 18, who have been at it for a couple of laps right now. 25, Chris Pierce, just got in the wall off the corner there, but they are going to reset and keep on going.
I think that they're going to have a really hard time holding off this 18 car. I feel like that. As Chris Pierce is
on the wall.
Yes,
yeah.
Randy's not going to have to fight for that one. Chris Pierce got in the wall a little bit, as it's very easy to do here, as we've seen a lot of people do tonight. And I think that Randy Bechtel is playing the long game tonight, and I think he's probably feeling really confident about his pace.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Randy Bechtel, after starting in the third position, fell back a little bit. He's been around the top 4, top 5 all night. He is currently your 5th place car. Hey, I do think it might be a good time on lap 134 right now. We got to pay the bills. We got to take a break and hear from our absolutely awesome sponsor. So, Chris, we can go ahead and cue those up, and we'll be back in just a few moments. How do we get these one-of-a-kind amazing trophies? Well, we were fortunate to find UD Awards when we started our league. We reached out and we connected with Christopher, and we got started designing these one-of-a-kind works of art. The process was easy from start to finish. After just a few revisions, we finalized each one of them, and the team at UD got to work building each trophy from scratch. They're a small team, but they've got the ability to do just about anything your brain can imagine. And don't worry, if you're not an artist, they've got an entire catalog of unique trophies in pretty much any material you can imagine. Wood, acrylic, glass, and in the case of last season's trophy, metal. The best part, they're affordable. If you're looking for a trophy for your event or league, the choice is simple. UD Awards can give you exactly what you want. Are you looking for high-quality, affordable sim racing paint schemes and graphics? Then look no further than Evan at Evan Pienta Designs. Driven by speed, Evan Pienta Designs offers a multitude of sim racing graphics, from liveries to social media graphics to team and series logos. To see some of the work done by Evan, or even race one of the public liveries he's made, head on over to tradingpaints.com and search Evan Pienta. All right, we are back at Indianapolis Raceway Park for the Apex Energy Cup Series, Apex Energy 200, and you're looking live at a battle for the lead. Scott Sobczak with Aaron Smith closing in. Scott Sobczak is on slightly older tires. We've seen his short run pace really fast tonight, but Scott has struggled a little bit over these longer runs, and right now Aaron Smith in that number 1 yellow machine is tracking down the leader. Tony Hilbrun's is still about 5 seconds back. It's going to come down to these guys, at least for the next couple of laps. Got a few other cars are going to be keeping an eye on here over the next 10 to 20 laps. But right now, it's all up front between Sobczak and Smith, and we see both of those cars running slightly different lines into the corner. We see that one car maybe running a slightly higher line, able to cut down to the bottom just a little bit faster than that 81, as we mentioned earlier. That is a sign that his tires are in maybe just a little bit better shape than Sobczak. So, Chris, the battle forecast, I know we've been looking at it all night long, but if I had to guess, just magic number, maybe 5 laps, if I had to guess, if we were to pull it up now. Oh, no, similar pace.
Yeah, that lap right there, Scott was a little bit quicker than Aaron. And you know, like as they get closer and closer, you know, you can kind of just see, you can see the difference. You can see how close they are. Now I think the big question is going to be, you know, has Scott been able to keep his tires underneath him a little bit better on this run than what he did on that previous long run to start the race? You know,
yeah,
he might have learned some things.
Yeah, we mentioned the fact during the break that Aaron had been driving the car just a little bit harder than we had seen him drive it in that first run. And as the 81 gets a little bit of wiggly off turn 2, we're going to see how much of an impact both of those drivers' approaches to how they're driving their car on this newest set of tires is going to factor into their long run pace, as we see things have kind of equaled out. And the classic adage in racing is catching them is one thing, but passing them is a whole nother story.
Yeah.
So these drivers make their way down the backstretch on lap 149 of 200.
Yeah, he's just inching closer and closer and closer, and I really, really like that sort of like that late turn, that late apex, trying to, you know, just trying to maximize your speed on corner exit, as Aaron has really, really good roll speed. He's really getting into the throttle nice, getting off the brakes, not riding those brakes very long. You know, Scott's taking a little bit lower entry right there. I'm sure the car is probably picking up a push a little bit right now. Probably sliding the right front a little bit. And he's having to compensate a little bit by that line that he's running. We're going to ride on board right here. We're actually going to, let's see if we can ride on board with Aaron Smith. Get a look from his perspective as he's inching a little bit closer and a little bit closer each lap to that 81.
If I had a nickel for every time a car grabbed the outside wall tonight, just lightly, I'd be a very rich man by the end of this race.
Yeah, there's been a lot of it, and you know that's to be expected here with a line that is, you know, like we mentioned before, it's a non-orthodox line. It's a line that you wouldn't expect. Right in front of Scott Sobczak, we've got the 80. We've got the 22 of Brady Powers. We'll see if Brady here, he's currently a lap down, see if he can stay in front of these guys, because he is on much fresher tires than them. So that might create a little bit of havoc here. Both Scott and
Scott Sobczak got a little loose off that corner off the 4.
Yeah, Scott and Aaron both are, you know, very fast. But Brady's got a lot fresher tires. And so I'll be curious to see if this might create any havoc, or if these guys get bad enough, if Aaron can you know, or I'm sorry, if Brady can start to pull away from both of them.
Yeah, so looking like the 22 is maintaining that margin, but you're right. If they do catch them, someone might try to make a pick out of that 22 car.
Yeah, not far behind these guys. Well, I say not far. It's about 5 seconds back. Behind them, we've got Tony Hilbrun's running in third, and Tony might be under pressure from this guy here if things continue on. Though it looks like here in the last couple laps, Tony Hilbrun's has picked up the pace and has started to gap Randy Bechtel a little bit.
Yeah, Tony is picking up the pace. That lap, he actually ran a couple hundredths faster than both Sobzak and Smith, and he got a little bit of a gap going on that 18 car. So maybe Tony is turning up the wick here a little bit with about 45 laps to go as we hit lap 156. And man, Chris, if you had told me that we would have run 157 laps tonight without a yellow flag, even for our drivers in the Apex Energy Cup Series, I would have said you're kidding me.
Yeah, it's been an impressive display tonight, and you know, I think that I think a lot of it is, you know, just the talent that we've got in this series, the respect these guys show for each other. You know, we got a little bit chippy at Bristol, our first short track race. I think we had some rivalries develop there. I think we had some grudges that might have developed as well. Nobody has cashed in on those, at least as far as we've seen up here. You know, obviously we don't have onboard, we don't have the radio sweetheart going, so we're not 100% sure on that. But you know, it's been an impressive night, and this track lends itself to that. Of all the short tracks that we go to, I'm gonna be curious tomorrow night. It's another short track that kind of lends itself to it in the Apex Energy Truck Series. If we get those same green flag runs as Tony Hilbrun's and Ryan O'Hara, look to bring you that action here on the Slingshot Twitch channel as Aaron Smith's going to come after Scott Sobzak.
Hey, and don't look now, but Chase Berry, who is a lap down, actually, yeah, he is the first car lap down. He is going to be looking to get his lap back right now. So I don't know if he's going to get here and mingle with these cars too much. He's probably going to be content to sit back and watch, at least as Aaron Smith looking like he's going to have the upper hand.
If I'm Chase, I got to pass these guys. I got to get after it and go. You don't want to have to get the lucky dog here. You want to be on the lead lap. Being the lucky dog puts you behind on a potential restart. So I bet he's going to try to get after it and go after him here and try to. I mean, he's not going to wreck him. He's not going to race him dirty or anything like that. But I think he's going to race him hard.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And that adds a whole nother dimension to this race, is what this 5 car is going to do if he's going to get involved in this battle for the lead. Hey, but one thing I do want to ask you about and talk about just a little bit is what's going on back in 3rd and 4th. Each drivers that we saw
contact.
Well, yes.
Yeah, I think that Scott's having a little bit of a hard time up off the corner. I think that Aaron his center of the corner speed, his rolling speed is so good. He's getting back in the throttle so much quicker that I think that a little bit of contact was made right there. No harm, no foul, though. They kept it straight and they kept going. That's just good short track racing.
Yeah, and we got about 38 laps to go. This is a battle for the lead. The 1 car of Aaron Smith looks inside of the 81 of Scott Sobzak. He's going to return the favor by pushing up a little bit here. He thought about it for a second, but they are side by side down the backstretch at Indianapolis Raceway Park. A battle for the lead with 37 laps to go. Aaron Smith going to push right back up into the 81 of Scott Sobzak, but he is going to show him that room off the corner. Sobzak leads that lap as they cross the line onto lap 165. Side by side still. Aaron Smith's got to be really careful with that throttle play off the corner not to put the 81 in the walk, because that could put him in jeopardy if the 81 comes back down. He looks a little loose on entry there.
This is hard to do. This is really, really hard. This is, you know, with a track where the groove is so narrow as it is and where the top lane gets such an advantage on corner exit, what Aaron's doing here is really difficult, and he's going to clear him.
Over here?
Possibly. I think that you'll...
thought about it, maybe.
Yeah, he wanted to do it. I think it's just the difference in tire, you know, the lack of you know, rolling speed, cornering speed that Scott has right now. I think that you're going to see the 1 car possibly get a little bit smaller. So, you know, Aaron wants this thing to go green to the end. Scott wants this thing, wants to see another caution. As
he needs a yellow.
Yeah,
and
he made it. He made it all the way to lap 166, I think, before he lost it. So that was really good.
Oh, he got the wall again in the front stretch. That looked like that might have been a slightly harder hit than we've seen most of the rest of the night, as Chase Berry takes advantage of her, get underneath and go after that 1 car to get back on the lead lap. So Scott Sobzak going to give up first place. He's going to drop back by about a second right now. And hey, don't look yet. I don't know how much of this is due to raw speed or that battle for the lead that was going on, but Our third place and fourth place cars are about 5.2 seconds back.
Yeah.
And that they are kind of staying, maybe made up a little bit of ground right now, but they're staying pretty steady. Um, that's Tony Hilbrun's and Randy Bechtel. Johnny Rapp back there in fifth place. Chris Pierce in sixth place, having a really solid run. We talked to him before the race. He wasn't super confident about his speed, but he's shown he's had plenty of it tonight. Austin Greer, hey, shout out to Austin Greer, who pairs up on Sunday nights with Patrick Colby to do a fantasy NASCAR league show that covers some possible picks. If you're doing fantasy for the first time this year, whether it's in our Slingshot Fantasy League or your very own, check out that show on Sunday nights around 10 p.m. Eastern time to get some insight into maybe who some safe picks are and who might be some picks that get you up in the top 5 of your fantasy league standings.
Hey Ellis, are you going to tell them who? Are you going to tell them who won fantasy the first 2 weeks of the season?
Oh yeah, well I guess everyone could probably guess based on what you're saying right now.
And the only reason I did is because I watched the fantasy preview show both weeks and got some good advice from both Austin Greer and Patrick Colby.
Man, that was a nice plug you worked in there. Really good.
Like that?
Yeah, Austin Greer has led you down the path to first place, and he's sitting in a really solid 7th position right now. Chase Berry, as we mentioned, that car who is working on getting his lap back. He actually has already gotten by the one of Aaron Smith is in 8th. Brady Powers having a solid run in 9th after starting 15th. He's moved up 6 positions in that 22 pink machine. Moonlight Speed Concepts. Patrick Colby sitting in 10th. He's had a rough go of it tonight. Tires have not been his friend as he works his way by Lee Campbell, who, let me tell you, Lee has had a solid night all night long. This is the guy that we said comes out. He gets the job done. He stays out of trouble for the most part. Tonight he's put together a complete race with about 28 laps to go. Monty Sprague also having a good run, solid run back in 12th. And Chris Blassie bringing up the tail end of the field in 15th. But all of these drivers, for the most part, have stayed out of trouble. Rye Jones, Justin Gann, and Rhett Tucker are the only cars out of the race tonight. I'm not sure what happened to Rye Jones a little bit earlier, if he had damage or maybe had some internet issues. But we only got 3 cars out of the race. And so far, we are caution-free, folks. We are 25 laps away from the end of this race, and not a single yellow flag has flown. If you're in the chat right now, hey, we appreciate you viewing and watching, tuning in for the Slingshot Racing Tuesday night race from the Apex Energy Cup Series. Again, I'm Ellis Thomas, joined by Chris Smith in the booth. Appreciate y'all watching. Let us know in the chat who you are rooting for, who you think's going to win. And hey, let us know, do you think there's going to be a caution before the end of the race with just 25 laps left at IRP?
And we're riding on board with Tony Hilbrun's. Randy Bechtel has slowly inched up to the rear bumper of Tony Hilbrun's, and I'm going to be curious to see if we go green to the end, how this battle's going to go. I feel like right now, these guys are on equal tires. They both came to pit road 76 laps ago. They're both, sitting here. They've been very, very comparable on pace. I feel like at the end of that very first run, Randy was probably the fastest car on the track as far as long run pace went. I feel like he was faster than Aaron Smith. I feel like he was faster than Scott Sobczak and Tony Hilbrun's. But it's not as long of a run here to the end of the race. So I don't know. It's going to be pretty close. It's going to be pretty close to about the same. So be curious to see where this battle goes here these last 21 laps.
Oh, I was looking at my telemetry for a second. I thought we had an issue with the one car. I saw it dropping really fast as he makes his way by Monty Sprague. Sorry for the false alarm there. But you're right. Tony Hilbrun's and Randy Bechtel, they've got quite a battle that I think is only going to intensify as this race goes on. If you're just joining us, we got about 21 laps left in this Apex Energy Cup Series race at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Hey, and if you've been watching down the bottom, you see that we've been running banners all night. Slingshot for Apex Energy Drink. Focus, clarity, stamina, get it all. Whether you need it for pre-workout, whether you're just trying to get through the day, get final chores done for the day, whatever you need, or you're sitting in a virtual race car. Get that energy without the fall off, without the crash of your major energy drinks. Go to apexenergydrink.com and use code Slingshot10 to get 10% off. And I bet you these drivers wish they could get 10% off of the tire wear that they've got on their cars right now. Because right now I'm looking at guys like Scott Sobzak. I'm looking at Johnny Rapp, even though he's on older tires. He's on 104 lap old tires. He's really feeling it right now. Back in 5th place as he's being hounded by Chris Pierce, who's got about 10 laps newer tires on that 25 blue and white machine.
Yeah, he gets the wall a little bit there on corner exit, but I really like what I'm seeing out of the 25 car here of Chris Pierce. Seems like tonight has been, I think, probably one of his best performances as far as his long run pace goes all season. He's on a lot older tires than a lot of these guys, and he has really good pace. Johnny Rapp has older tires than Chris Pierce does, but Chris Pierce is not letting Tony Hilbrens and Randy Bechtel get out of sight. And that's impressive considering the difference in tire life.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we should keep an eye on right now is we've got lap cars that Aaron Smith is coming up on that do have speed. These are not slouches. He's coming up on Austin Greer and Chase Berry fighting for the 7th position. So right now, this is going to be something to keep an eye on as we watch the gap between Aaron Smith and the rest of the field, Scott Sobzak, and see if it shrinks ever so slightly, because Scott Sobzak has kind of open racetrack in front of him in that 81, but you see Aaron Smith got a couple cars in front of him that he's going to have to work his way through if he's going to get to the line in 1st place tonight with about 16 laps to go. He clears the 45. He's going to have the 5 in front of him. I don't know if he chopped any time off, if Scott Sobzak did. I can tell you he actually did. He chopped off about a 10th and a half that lap. So we'll see if that stays steady. He ran about the same lap time as Scott Sobzak, or as Aaron Smith, that time by, though. So
yeah,
we'll keep an eye on it.
Oh, as 3 of Monty Sprague gets a little bit loose.
A little loose. That could have been our caution.
Yeah, the fastest guy on track is actually the guy who unlapped himself from around Aaron Smith and is on the freshest tires on track, and that is Chase Berry, currently in the 7th position. Here is Chase right here. Unfortunately for Chase, he's going to have some trouble. This has not worked out the way that I think he wanted it to work out. He's still having a solid run. He's going to come out of here with a solid result if he stays out of trouble. But
battle for 3rd place, by the way.
Yeah, we'll check out the battle for 3rd between Randy Bechtel and Tony Hilbrens.
Tony Hilbrens hanging tough on that outside line. He got into the wall, man.
Yeah.
The slingshot booth jinx is alive and well. But that's going to give him a little bit of a better line on exit as he sees if he can get a run on the 18 here. But I think we might be right about Randy's tire conservation just being a little bit more superior tonight to what Tony has been able to do over the course of this long run.
Yeah, and I think that's Tony Hilbrens had a great run all night. He was very impressive in the early stages of the race. I'd be curious to hear from Tony later if we see that little bit of right front damage. I saw similar damage on Patrick Colby's, like where the right front, you can see that right front tire a little bit there. It looks almost like the exact same damage that was on the 9 car. If that maybe is hurting the turn of that 92 Dodge.
Yeah, I would not be surprised in the slightest if that was the case. We got some action I'm watching with a keen eye here between the 3 and the 9. They're looking like contact back there. But I think we're gonna avoid any sort of calamity or caution. With just 10 laps to go as we hit lap 192 of the Apex Energy Cup Series here at IRP. Aaron Smith is your leader. He looks to extend his point lead over by just a few points over Randy Bechtel tonight, who is running 3rd. Scott Sobzak having a really good run after starting the pole. He's in 2nd. Tony Hilbrens, who led the first half of this race, is sitting in 4th after some pit strategy gone wrong. Or not gone wrong, but just didn't go as well as some of the other cars. Chris Pierce hounding him. Chris Pierce looking for a top 4 finish, which would be his highest finishing position of the year, if I'm not mistaken, on that 25 Pierce Graphics race car. And one note about Chris Pierce, every overlay you're seeing on top of our screen tonight, whether it be the ticker, the bar at the bottom, or the current top 10 info, they came from his brain. He designed them. So if you're looking at running your own league.
Oh,
Tony
no!
Hilbrins and Chris Pierce. That is going to be your first caution of the night, ladies and gentlemen, with
they
7
saved
to
it.
go.
They kept it going.
Oh, man, you are right. And I don't know. I think Tony, from the looks of it, Tony got loose off the corner, and Chris Pierce just had nowhere to go.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's going to be with about 7 laps to go. Man, Chase Berry was just probably grinning from ear to ear for a second, thinking that was going to be the caution that he needed to make his way through the field and win this race. But Chris Pierce comes out on the better end of that. Tony Hilbrins is going to get the short end of the stick on that altercation with about 6 to go in the Apex Energy 200 here at IRP.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate deal right there. Looks like Tony's going to get away with it without too much damage. They did a nice job keeping it straight. That was just, a situation where one guy got loose in front of another, and, short track racing, you're running really, really close together. As we come to, we have just 5 laps to go. Everybody has a set of tires in the pits. Everybody's got one set, so this is currently, shaping up. You're not going to have somebody who has a huge advantage coming down to it here at the end.
Hey, and Chris, one thing I do want to mention real quick, with about 4 laps to go, Randy Bechtel has taken second place, and he has chopped off over second now from the lead of Aaron Smith. He's running about 3/10 faster that last lap, so I don't know. I know Aaron's going through some lap traffic right now, and I don't know how much lap traffic he does have in front of him as he gets by the 14 car, but we're down to now a 3.5 second lead, and I think Aaron's probably taking it easy knowing there's only 3 laps left. But it's worth noting that Randy Bechtel did make that pass.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is moving ever closer to the lead. But I just don't think there's going to be enough time as we hit lap 198 here in the Apex Energy 200.
Yeah, in all that excitement, we missed the battle for second. But yeah, Randy's had good long run pace tonight, and he's looking really good right now.
Absolutely. So Aaron Smith now just a lap and a half away from... Is this going to be his 3rd win in the Apex Energy Cup Series so far this season?
I believe this will be number 3 if he can hold on.
One more lap for Aaron Smith. Randy Bechtel in second, Scott Sobzak in third. And hey, the story of tonight, 200 laps in the Apex Energy Cup Series, there's not been a single yellow flag on the track, but there has been that yellow car as Aaron Smith inches out of turn 4. He is going to claim his 3rd win of the season after tires saved the night for him. Second is going to be Randy Bechtel. Scott Sobzak finishes 3rd. Chris Pierce hangs on for a great 4th place finish. Johnny Rapp is going to cross the line in 5th for another top 5, Mr. Consistency, Johnny Rapp. So we're going to step aside for just a second. We'll get these drivers situated in the interview room, and we'll hear from all these guys here in just a moment. All right. Hey, Randy Bechtel in number 18. New paint scheme tonight. Slingshot booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we were looking at your pace over the course of the night, Randy, and you just kept getting faster and faster. I know that early on in the race, it seemed like you could not get away from that 30 car of Justin Gann until he had some connection issues. Talk to us about that early part of the run. What was the mentality as you're sitting back there in about 4th or 5th place? Did you have the speed to get by? Were you taking it easy? How was your patience during all of that?
The patience was definitely trying to get close to getting test there. Like, I was driving the corners totally different. So in the middle of the corner, I'd like close up on the bumper. The one time I did, it actually hit the 30 and about spun my stuff. And he disconnected like a lap later. So I don't. Hopefully that wasn't me. But yeah, it's really hard to pass here. It's sitting behind somebody and trying to wait for them to mess up. That's basically what I did.
Yeah, track position is everything. And you brought home that second place finish. Did you have anything at the end if we had gone maybe 10 more laps for Aaron Smith? We noticed you were gaining just a little bit there towards the end of the race.
I think all of us only had about 10 laps of fuel left, so it might have been close. I know I was definitely catching there. I think it was like 4.5 seconds. I don't think it would have gotten 10 seconds, but maybe in 2 at least. He still would have
Hey.
had it.
Well, congratulations on your second place finish. You got any shout outs before we let you go?
All the payday teammates, you guys for running the broadcast in the league, the race control guy for doing his job, great job, and all the great sponsors you have here at Slingshot.
Awesome, Randy. We appreciate it. Go out there and enjoy your second place finish. You're keeping stride there in second place in the points, so keep it up.
And thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, so you heard from Randy Bechtel, our second place finisher. We do now have Scott Sobzak, who is available, so we're going to send him over into the broadcast booth. And Chris, go ahead and take it away.
Scott Sobzak, driver of the number 81 Square D Ford. This is a Slingshot booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Hey man, so we watched you all night. We watched the progress all night. Started on the pole. Seemed like early on in the race, the 92 Tony Hilbers jumped off to a quick lead right there, and you and Aaron Smith racing really, really hard for that second spot for seemed like forever. Talk us through that long stretch there at the beginning of the race, and then your decision to pit a little bit earlier than those guys.
Yeah, I mean it was it was actually really fun. I mean, starting on the inside is a little bit of a disadvantage there on the initial start, and Tony got out and took off, and then it was just myself and Aaron. I just rode his bumper for what seemed like 70 laps or something like that. And, I had a couple opportunities where I get a run, and you get inside, but you just can't pass here without making some sort of contact. And I'm sure I could probably hear Chris and Ellis in the booth there talking about how hard it is to pass every 10 laps or so, and that was the truth. And the only way you can get around them is to pit early and see if you could hold them off late, and that was kind of the strategy. But tires just kind of fell off at the end, and that was that.
Yeah, we were talking about your strategy. I think it was a really good move. We were talking about it as it was going on. Were you hoping that maybe you could get that caution timed at about the point where Aaron would catch you? Because he did have a little bit. It wasn't a huge difference in tires, but it was enough of a difference where it was going to be a speed difference. I'm assuming that you were hoping for that caution to come out right maybe when he would catch you.
Yeah, there was a few points where I was wishing for a caution, but the longer it went, the more I kind of figured out that wasn't going to happen. Like later into I don't know, around lap 125, 150, that would have been a nice time for it to come out to settle the field back down, but just didn't work out that way, and that's fine. It was kind of the only strategy I had after I started losing some spots to him right around that lap 80 mark or so. So just threw it out there, but didn't work.
Well, hey, man, you had a great run all night. You put on a good show with a couple of really, really good battles with Aaron Smith. Do you have any shout-outs that you'd like to give before we let you go?
I got to thank my wife, Alex, of course. Baby Junebug knows who he is, Mr. Figs. He's upstairs watching. Olivia, Alyssa, and, of course, Remy. They're all hopefully watching at home. Appreciate the support.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, that's Scott Sobzak, your third-place finisher tonight. Congratulations on a great run, man.
Well, thank you.
All right, so you heard from our third-place finisher. Let's hear from that driver, the yellow one, the race winner, Aaron Smith. Hey, Aaron Smith, this is Ellis and Chris up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy, sir?
Yeah, I've got you.
My goodness. I would never say that I'm sick of talking to you, but this is win number 3. And hey, man, you're really testing us this season because you're giving us these moments during the race where you're making us think he's not as good as he has been. And we should have known better. But tonight I felt like we had that. We had Tony Hilbrun's your teammate, lead 100 laps. Talk to us about, we wouldn't want to overshadow Tony at all, but were you holding back a little in that first half of the race?
Yeah, my plan of attack was pretty much the same as all the other races this season. You want to save the right front as much as you can, and I was trying to prioritize that. But I was racing Scott pretty hard there. He'd try to get a nose under me, and I would kind of use the tightness of the setup to my advantage and kind of pinch him a little bit, make sure he couldn't get that run on me off the corner. But for some reason, at lap 75, the car started feeling much better than it did earlier, so I was able to make use of that and somehow found a few seconds over the course of that last run.
Yeah, man, you definitely got faster as the night went on. We were watching that battle between you and that 81 of Scott Sobczak really intensely, and we saw that moment where he pushed you into the wall just a little bit, and a couple laps later, you were in that similar situation where you were starting to push up a little bit. I was like thinking to myself, is there any way Aaron gets payback here? Is Aaron going to pull the aggressive move on Scott? And you never did, and that's just the kind of driver that you are. That about you, and that's what gets you to so many victories. Taking your third tonight here this season, the Apex Energy Cup Series. Hey, got a couple questions for you. Are you running the Pro Series at all?
Road to Pro, yeah. I intend to run the full series this time by. I don't know how well I'm going to do because I don't really have a team, but I have a few setups I'll be working with this season. And I'm in 49th right now, so hopefully I'll be able to continue that this Thursday.
Good job, man. Keep trucking or keep rolling, I guess, with that. Do you have any shout-outs you want to throw out there before we let you go celebrate?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to thank Scott for racing me so clean there at the beginning. He had every right to punt me out of the way there with how hard I was holding him back. But yeah, I'd like to thank everyone else in the field for putting on such a clean race. To go flag to flag at a track like this is certainly a lot more than I was expecting tonight with the how aggressive some of the guys are in here. But yeah, I'd like to thank everyone at the Slingshot Racing League for putting the show on, y'all for broadcasting, all the folks for watching. Looking forward to getting back at it wherever we are next week.
Awesome, man. Well, it is going to be an interesting week, and you're right. I'm not even sure where we head to next week. We can take a look at this quick schedule, and I can actually let you know. Chris, do you know off the top of your head where we're headed?
I do not, but I do know it'll
All right.
probably be a really good show.
We're gonna find out together. So next week, after IRP, we are headed to Kansas, one of my favorite tracks in the Cup Series. So that's going to be an interesting race. Did we lose him?
I think that you broke up.
Oh
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. How do you feel about your chances at Kansas next week?
I'm feeling pretty good about it. If the plan of attack's the same as the rest of these intermediate tracks this season, I should have a pretty solid shot at it. But you never know how it's going to play out. We could have a race to go flag to flag, or we could have 10 cautions. There's no in between. But looking forward to seeing how that works out, and hopefully I'll be able to talk to y'all this time next week.
Absolutely, man. Hey, go enjoy your evening. We appreciate you as always.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, so you heard from our winner, Aaron Smith. You heard from the other top three cars in this Apex Energy 200. Chris, we talked about some storylines at the beginning of the race. Amongst those storylines, tires, as it's always a story in the Slingshot Racing League, and we saw Aaron Smith hang on to those tires. We saw some drivers struggle with tire management, not just tire management, but tire strategy. We saw some of the running orders shake up depending on when different cars pitted and what lap you pitted on. We saw the fight for space on the track. Really, you heard all of our drivers mention in their interviews how difficult it was to pass out there. Unfortunately for them, they did have those different lines that they could make use of. And I don't know if we saw necessarily any grudges play out on track tonight. And I don't know if we saw any truly develop. We didn't see any cautions over the course of 200 laps, which is the longest stretch that any Slingshot Racing League race has gone. Over 200 laps. And man, these 16 drivers who showed up tonight, they put on a show. We're running through the session results here. Aaron Smith, your winner. Randy Bechtel, second. Scott Sobczak, third. Chris Pierce brings it home with his best finish of the season in fourth place. Johnny Rapp, Mr. Consistency, finishes fifth. Tony Hilbrens, we talked about him leading that first half of the race, but again, the complexion of the race changed once those first pit stops rolled around on right around lap 102. He finished the sixth after a late race incident between the fourth place finisher, Chris Pierce. Chase Berry, man, started 16th, made his way up to 7th. He just does what Chase Berry does. Chris, if we'd seen a caution in the last 15 laps, what chances did you give Chase Berry winning the race?
Well, I think that Chase wanted a caution earlier. I think that he wanted a caution really, really close to about the time that he came to pit road, because if the caution had come out with 15 to go, I think everybody had been on the same tires because everybody had one set left. So I think that Chase's hope was that, he would have he would have been able to get back on the lead lap, and then the caution would have come out. Maybe he would have stayed out and maybe hoped for a late caution. But he tried it. He went for it. It didn't quite work out the way that he wanted. I think his strategy kind of got shot when it went as long green as it did early in the race. But I had a lot of fun watching it.
Yeah, I did too as well. These guys, like we said, they put on a great show. Austin Greer, 8th place finish. Brady Powers in 9th. Great solid run for him. I know he finished a lap down, but he held on for most of the night, and I think the MVP of the race might go to him and Chase Berry for holding on to 120 plus lap tires. Lee Campbell, great solid top 10 finish. Monty Sprague, 11th, great run, solid run for him tonight. Patrick Colby, we said, struggled over the night with tires and the handling of that car. I think he got in the wall multiple times. Hangs on for a 12th place finish. Chris Blassie, 13th. Ry Jones, Justin Gann, and Rhett Tucker also running in some issues. Eventually find themselves out of the race. So great race tonight. We can look forward to Kansas next week, but tomorrow night the Truck Series hits Iowa. A short track that feels in some ways like an intermediate. I think there's going to be some beating and bumper banging going on there tomorrow night, Chris. And you and I will be in the trucks for that race, driving the Apex Energy trucks, the number 8 and the number 28. In the booth tomorrow is going to be Ryan O'Hara and your 6th place finisher tonight, Tony Hilbrand. So check out all that Truck Series racing action tomorrow night at 8:30 on the Slingshot Racing Twitch and YouTube, as well as Facebook page, right here, same time. Hey, for all of you who watch tonight, we appreciate it. We do it for the fans, our friends, our family. Y'all are what make this possible, and we really appreciate it, all y'all. Go out there, have a good night, and we'll catch you in the Cup Series next week